Righty, welcome back to NZ Hombre Customs again. So, what are we up to today? So it's in between Christmas and New Year's, 28th, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. So I've had a sore back for a couple of days. So it always seems to get me those long breaks off, just with sitting around and not doing too much, if you know what I mean. Just obviously Christmas Day and Boxing Day and whatever. I freaking end up with a sore back. I think I need to be moving all the time, sort of doing bits and pieces. And obviously, if I, typical overindulgent Christmas Day and Boxing Day, whatever, it ends up with being too much pressure on my gut and it pushes on my back and starts me off, I think. Plus, we had which I didn't realise on Saturday, the 23rd, 23rd, on the Saturday before Christmas Day, obviously, was my niece's 35th birthday, which was actually on the day after, but on the 24th, but they were having a do, obviously, for her birthday. But what I didn't realise, and what most people didn't realise, except for a handful of people, was her and her partner have been together for quite a few years, and they've got 3 kids, but just never got around to getting married. So they actually got married a wee bit earlier in the day, and then turned up to this thing, everybody thinking it was a birthday do, but it ended up being a wedding do as well. So that was pretty cool. So a bit of overindulgence there too with food, I guess. Not really. They just had they had a big, massive, huge, like finger food, like meats cut, cold cut meats and bits and pieces. And by the time you've had not that I drink a lot, but I think I had about 4, 5 beers, I guess. Plus, just picking out and that sort of stuff. I think the combination of that and then just sitting around and not doing a lot over the next few days, I don't know, it always seems to get me. I've got to get some weight off. I need to. But that's one of those things. But anyway, so for Christmas, I didn't really get a lot. I'm not too worried about it. But Mrs. and the boy and that spotted, not that something I would buy, but it's pretty cool. It was one of those big Lego kits, which was a Dodge Charger. So they bought me that, because I've got a glass cabinet with all sorts of different cars and models in it. So I built it up and put it in there. And I was looking for a 1/2-inch drive, half decent radle gun to give them to Mum and Dad for their Christmas plus Dad's birthday. I kind of combined it because his birthday's the day after Christmas, Boxing Day. Been looking for one for him for a while, trying to find something that was good but not ludicrously priced. So what you find is a lot of the like DeWalt and Milwaukee and Makita and all those sorts of things, unless you're buying a big 5-pack or 7-pack of all the tools, which is like a couple of $1,000s here plus, unless you're buying a pack like that, it's very hard to get the tool, a battery and a charger all in one kit. You can come across them, but like sometimes the kits can be really expensive, or if you buy a skin, which is sort of $300 or $400 plus a battery, which is a couple $100 plus a charger, which is $100 or so. It can get really expensive fast if you just want to buy the tool. But I come across these. I'll show you. So this is sort of like the lightweight version of the 1/2-inch drive Impact, which is this particular model here. But it comes with a 6 amp hour battery, the charger, which I haven't bought here because I don't really need it here. I've got chargers here, which is the owner's shed, which I don't really use here. But the charger I got is the one. I did have one here. It's got had a single one of this sort of thing here, but I've got the single version of this, basically. I think it is. he did have another one here, but he must have taken it away and used it somewhere else. But I've got some of these other tools here that I can't use. I did have he did have one of the new angle grinders here, cordless one, because the DeWalt one died, but he's obviously using that. So I thought, well, screw it. I bought one for Dad, so I bought one for myself as well. So these were about 300 odd bucks, which is a hell of a deal, because like you price out the battery, like the 6 amp hour battery is not cheap, and the charger itself's not cheap, and I think the skin alone was a couple of $100 plus for this lightweight cheaper version. But the reason I bought it for Mum and Dad is for the camper van, so they can undo wheel nuts. So this has got any amount of grunt to undo, like, you know, car wheel nuts, or, you know, like some of those European type camper which got like a 22mm, I think 22mm socket is what they fit for the wheel nuts. Whereas anything I'm going to use here, or from a way out doing something, the only thing I wish I had was another battery, but that's something I can hunt out down the line. If I can find someone who's got a deal on batteries at some point, I can get myself another battery, and I would like to get myself one of those cordless grinders as well eventually. But now I'm into the platform, and I've got a charger at home, so I left the charger at home because I don't need it here. Well, I can just keep adding now, now that I've actually got myself in the market, because these things just aren't cheap. Like, because I priced out one of the heavy duty ones, so that and the battery and a charger, because you got to buy it separately unless you stumble across a kit together. It's about $700 or $800. It's just crazy money, and I was just like, holy shit, I'm not buying that. But you know, I stumbled across these. Somebody had them. They come up, I think the first one I bought for Dad was $239, or no, $339. I thought, shit, that's not too bad. And then a couple of days later, in a different store, they all of a sudden had them on special for $300, and I was like, oh, I don't give a shit that I paid a little bit more for Dad's one. What does it matter? So I went and bought myself one a couple of days later. So yeah, it comes with the quick connect for the to put your bits in as well. But yeah, we'll test this out shortly, because I want to take the wheels off first. And obviously it's got no, you can't break the front when it's in the ear, but it'll be interesting. It'll just be, if I hold the wheel and rattle the wheel nuts off, that'll be a good test for that. Because I know that little 12 volt 3/8 drive one I've got here, it's got a wee bit of snot, but it's not that grunty for undoing wheel nuts. So this should be more than what I need for just flicking a few wheel nuts off and on again. Like, for all I'm going to be using it, that'll be handy for just stuff that's got a bit more, needs a bit more snort. Watched a couple of videos on it, and I think it's good for, you know, sort of 170, 180 foot-pounds of torque, and it's got a shock function on it. Yeah, so it's on the undo shock function there at the moment. So if you click this battery, or the button on the battery, so that takes the hammer off, and then it's obviously got high and low function. So yeah, so it's high, and then low, and then high with the hammer. So yeah, it'll do that to try and shock it off, to just bursts, so it's not hammering like hard out on the system, which is pretty cool. So you just got to keep pulling it, but you can do it obviously the other way around with the with that on. But yeah, huge frickin', that'll be awesome. And plus having the 6 amp hour battery, so it's not the 4 or the 5, it's the 6. So it'd be really handy. Should give me plenty of power. And eventually, like I said, I'll grab another battery at some point when I find a deal, to get another couple of batteries at some point, and hopefully maybe pick one up with some other tools, if you know what I mean. But anyway, so we're starting to get into some decent gear, but these are, I still like those. This here has got a little bit loose in the headstock, I must admit that. Let's not try to show it there very well today. It's got a little bit loose in that chuck, which I'm a bit disappointed about, but But everything else seems to be good so far, so yeah. But I finally got myself a decent, half decent impact. So yeah, I think that'll be perfect for what I need here, and again, it'll be really handy for mum and dad if they're away in the camp and they get a flat, because dad's been crook lately, so should undo any wheel nut that he needs to undo. Righty, so I'm actually sitting partly on this cowl because I can't reach in here very easy. So like there was only one hole here, but I just started having a poke with a screwdriver. So when you get pieces that are rusty like this, just have a good poke. Anything that looks like it might be a little sus, just have a good wee scrape and just see if you can find any other thin spots, because you might cut a piece out. I was almost tempted to cut a piece out just here and replace this piece, but then I started poking a bit harder. Everything else along here seems to be okay, but I poked that hole. So you have a good poke around when you get stuff like this. What really, we don't really know what the rest of this is like, but most of the pieces I've cut off have been okay, except for where it's got rotten. But yeah, just have a good poke when you're doing stuff around here like a windscreen, because you don't want to be in here too many fucking times, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be fixing a couple of patches and then, you know, a couple of years down the track, it's bust out somewhere else because you just missed something. Ideally, if, you know, you probably could have made a whole piece and just cut the whole front section off this and shake the piece up and put it in there. But I'm trying not to lose as many of these as possible. He does have the clip kit here. It's got the little screws that hold them in. So there's meant to be obviously one every few inches, whatever that is. I don't know, 4.5, 5 inches, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So there's meant to be one in here where my little finger is. So if we get that distance roughly. So yeah, there's one meant to be just in here. Yeah, so somewhere in that ballpark. So we're going to have to lose this one too. So we don't want to be losing too many of those brackets pieces if we can avoid it, if you know what I mean. But I think that's the last hole. These two are the last hole across here until we maybe get across there a little bit, and we'll have a bit more of a clean up as we get across. And we'll better jump over the side. I might have to take that door off as well, stick it in here a bit easier. It's just easier to muck around in here and lean over. You're not trying to lean over door mirrors, and that cuts your width distance down when you're getting close to the edge. You're not leaning on shit. Not that I really want to be sitting on the edge of the dash, but it's not too bad. I'm trying to sit back as far as I can with my big fat ass. Anyway, we'll cut this section out. Go a good, well, as far as you can each side. So quickly just made that. So you allow yourself at least an inch or close to it each side, 25 mils an inch roughly each side of where your holes are. Go at least that past. Even when you're doing like patches in a door or rocker panels or anything like that, if you're going to put a patch in it, go at minimum of an inch past before you cut, because you never know, like you might have like a little hole on the inside or the outside, but that might be a really badly rusty pitted spot on the inside. But if you go at least an inch, at least when you pull it off, you can go, okay, you know, that's sweet, that's clean, that's nice and clean, you know. Just up past that, you know, you got a dirty patch, and then where you cut just above it is nice and clean, you know, in that area. So you know that you're welding back on a good steel. You've got rid of 90% of that grotty shit. And then you can get in there and give it a wee spray, treat anything else that's around when you get your patch off, and then put your new patch in, or whatever. Or if you're cutting a whole quarter off, then it doesn't matter, but at least you can get in there. But if you're doing small patches, minimum of an inch past the last part of the hole, where it's rotten and rusty, at least, you know, go past, yeah, on clean steel is what I'm meaning. So where it's rusty and shitty, like say this, if this was a panel down here, I would go an inch past this rotten shit, you know, at least to get back into good steel. If this wasn't like a windscreen frame, what I'm trying to tell you. So yeah, like if this was out, so if I was cutting, I'm cutting along here because it's a good place to join it. But if this was, I don't know, say a normal section, and I wasn't going into a roof skin, I'd cut past here like at least a good inch, and then down below here a good inch, and obviously each side a good inch. It's a bit hard. I'm trying not to cut out too much along here. This seems to be solid, but you know, we'll get in there and treat it. But I don't see any of the holes. Like I would almost like to replace this, but I'm just trying to do the least amount of welding along here as I possibly can. But you know, keep it so it's good and solid. And as long as we put plenty of rust treatment on here, we should be okay. And we're going to get rid of a chunk of this anyway. That's why I'm getting rid of this piece of the skin too, so we get rid of as much dirty shit. Now if this really breaks away and burns away, well, we know that we can cut a bit more shit off here if it does get a bit sus. Once we sort of cut piece off, like I can always use that somewhere else or use it on something else later on if I have to build a bigger piece. But we'll cut that piece out. Right, so I've got that one in. We'll get a little bit of final clean up and grind up. I'm just fucking getting sore from sitting there. So we'll have a poke along here and just see what else we've got to dig out. I'm not 100% sure. Freaking that light's just not in the right place, is it? It's a bit of scabby stuff. There's a hole there in there, I think. Oh, maybe not be. I'll have a good clean up along here anyway. Grab my little rotary brush and whatever. We'll have a clean up down here. I know there's some holes here, so I might have to try and get this dash of the frickin' road somehow. I know I was disconnected, but I don't know how far I can go without it. I don't know how far detached it is, if you know what I mean. I don't want to have to be pulling it right out of the frickin' road if I can avoid it. Otherwise it starts getting more and more costly, but we can at least cut that piece out. But yeah, we'll clean up along here and then we'll go from there. And obviously we'll have a poke along here, just make sure there's no other little bubbly stuff, because there is a few bubbles along there. Might as well fucking have a look while we're here, clean it back to make sure it's solid. It's easier to fix it now than it is later, once it's, you know, been, you know, cleaned up and painted and whatever later on, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know if this thing will ever go back to being metal, but it's like most things. Sometimes you're better off to, but it's to get people to do that. You know what I mean? Sometimes. Get this door up out of the road. But yeah, we'll have a poke around here. We'll give this a clean up and to make sure there's nothing sticking out of this. And yeah, we'll go from there. Alrighty, so here's another really good example why to strip a car back to bare metal. So it's just starting to break through along here. How far I do not know. I think this is a bit of a hole back here too. Not sure. I have to have a bit of a dig. Yep. So there's a hole there too. So all these will be like they're decent sized holes, you know. And there wasn't a lot of filler on there, but it was just a little bit. For what reason I don't know. But so yeah, we're now going to have to put at least a patch in here and do some repairs at the back. But we'll do. I haven't cleaned everything off obviously yet, but we will clean everything off a wee bit better than that. But this is why you're always trying to encourage a customer, if they're going to spend a decent amount of money on something, bring it majority of the car back to steel. The more you can bring back the steel, the better, because you can clean off all the seams, find all these little rusty spots, and at least you can go, well, shit, you know, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. You know, are we better off to look for another body, or, you know, here's all the holes, they're all being found, and you know what you're going to expect. But yeah, it's difficult because it's nothing worse than spending a lot of money on a car and then, you know, a few years later you got to go back and fix rust because you just didn't quite take everything back to steel. You know, if we just scuffed that, but I could see there was just a minor bit of a couple little bits of bubbles along here. I was like, yeah, I might as well clean it off for here. You know, we're gonna put a patch in it. But yeah, if you didn't do that, you know, you'd be 2 or 3 years down the track, and then the big massive freaking rust hole in here, and you know, and because he's having to put a hood lining in it anyway, you know, what does it matter? But it would suck to do it twice. You know, so that's what I always try and say. If you're going to be doing lots of rust, you know, especially around roofs and windscreens and stuff, it just pays to get as much paint off as possible, and then you can find all the little nooks and crannies and hidden stuff that you just never see if you don't pull it all back. Anyway, I'm going to bugger off and have some lunch, and then we'll come back and we'll cut some more patches. Alright, so this is why you cannot quote shit. Perfect example, right? So we've got this small patch here, a bit rusty in behind. Fine, sure enough we'll clean it up. But, you can see it's already been patched from in here. This bit of goo was in there filling that hole. So it wasn't even repaired properly from before. So I've obviously just laid a patch in here somewhere. I'll have to have a dig. Which is a real cunt. But, you know, it is what it is, you know, like, it's what people just don't understand. You just can't quote on a vehicle. You know, if you've got something like this, like, sure, you could just scuff this down, you know, you could have bulged up a few patches and blown a coat of paint over this thing, but it's never going to be right. You know, you're going to get a few years down the track, this would all broken out, rusted out, and then you would have been in here for major repairs, you know, that are, how do you say it, like, because I've found this and I can repair this and clean it up and make it look good, and it's done properly. It's not so much of a bigger issue because it hasn't been pulled up on a safety inspection here, what we call a warrant of fitness. Because this is the registration on this is still on hold, and if this went, say this was like prettied up, you know, blown over, a bit of body filler in there, whatever, who, you know, nobody cares sort of type bullshit. Get it down the road, you know, somebody's obviously spent, you know, might have spent good money doing that, but I've seen it. Actually, a perfect example is my uncle has got a Triumph TR6 or whatever it was. Years ago, he pulled it down. My cousin, who's now passed away, did a heap of fab work on the chassis. The body went to somebody else, and it was meant to be stripped to be metal. He just found out recently. I'll see if I can get a photo of it, or there's actually a video clip of it. I might pinch that off Facebook and show you, but here's my auntie and uncle walking around it, and this other guy because he took it to this other guy to get it painted. Once he'd actually got it all, he pieced it all back together, got it running, driving and all that sort of stuff, and then stripped it back apart to send it away to get painted. Now, supposedly a few years ago, I don't know how many, but like a few years ago, like 10, 15, whatever it was, years ago when he first started on the project, you know, early mid-2000s, I think it was when he originally started on it. But yeah, it is supposed to be been stripped back to bare metal and all the bits and pieces fixed. Well, the guy started blocking it back and went through like about 4 layers of fucking paint. Like it had never been stripped back to bare metal and had all the bodywork done properly, if you know what I mean. But my uncle had paid for it, supposedly. So yeah, like you just never know what the fuck is underneath cars. And it's frustrating. Like when you're getting into doing work like this, we're not taking a late model car to the body shop that's had a ding, rip a couple of fucking panels off it, slap it back together, maybe knock a few dents out of the bits that you aren't replacing. Like, I don't know, say it's had you might have put 2 doors on it and had to straighten a couple of bits out. It's had a bit of a smack or something like that. I don't know, you know what I mean? Thrown a couple of doors on it, given it a scuff out, and blowing some paint on it. It's not like that, and that's insurance work. This is a different fucking kettle of fish. We're repairing old cars that people want to keep and do up and drive around and have better go out and enjoy them for what they were back in the day, and obviously modify and whatever. Some people like them standard, some people like them modified. Or sometimes you get a wee bit of a blend of the two. It looks fairly stock, but it's got a few little tricks under the hood. Or it's got a couple of suspension mods or something like that. So it looks stock. It might have slightly wider wheels on it that looks stock with better tyres. A few things like that. It's got a few minor upgrades, maybe brake upgrades. So it's a nicer vehicle to drive, obviously, than it was when it was factory. But yeah, like when people come to you and go, I just want this painted, I just want that painted, especially on old stuff like this. If you're not going to strip it back and fix shit properly, well, this is the shit that you find when you're doing these sorts of jobs. It's a lot like Corolla. We put patches in the skins of the doors, and then the left front one we had to rebuild the front part of the door frame, and then there was a hole in the floor and there was a hole in the doorpost. I reckon if we'd stripped it back to bare metal, I would have found more. But that's what people don't quite understand, and the time it takes to fix these things. And then, I want the bumper modified. Well, it took me, if I added all those bits together, it would have been close to a week's worth of work. Well, a week's worth of work is, fucking 2 or 3 grand. Probably would have been 2 or 3 grand worth of work in it. Like, are you prepared to spend that money, extra money, to do something, or whatever? Like if you want to customise a car, that's what it costs. It's just not something you're going to do in 5 minutes, or even an hour, or even a day. You might get the bulk of it done in a day and get it mocked up and whatever, but it's the finishing and the blending and the fucking around, and then all of a sudden realising that something doesn't quite fit when you've got it all back together, and then you got to tweak it a bit. You got to go back over and fix that or modify something. Sometimes when you weld shit together properly, it pulls and it changes shape and whatever. So you got to refit it and go back and alter something. It's the nature of the beast, but people just don't quite grasp that. Just if you're going to start digging into old cars, expect the worst and hope for the best. If you think you're, to be honest, like, people go, frickin', was it going to cost this much or that much or whatever? You just don't know. Like a basic paint job on this, if you just scuffed the back, cleaned it up and, I don't know, blocked it out a bit and make it a bit straighter, it might be 10 or 15 grand to do it half decent, if you know what I mean, like with these few bits of rust repairs. But when you see shit like this, where it's been bodged, like, I don't know if I can show you that or not. There. You can see where that's been just a patch fucking thrown there, like it's not done properly. So now now I've got to go in there and fix that properly, because there's no fucking way in hell I am leaving that. You know, obviously the outer skin's never been cut off it, but I ain't leaving that like that. Like it wasn't even fucking welded along here. So now I need to probably, I'm going to cut a piece out of here, but we need to have a decent look along there. See if we can get in there and have a look. Because fucking how much more this has been bodged. This is why you strip it back. This is why you bring it back to bare metal, because you just don't know what the fuck you're going to find. Perfect example. Anyway, I'll carry on. Might have to get the old Scotch-Brite wheel on the grinder over here, and I'll give this a way better clean back than I ever thought. But I bet you the owner didn't think it was like that either, you know what I mean? Like, but that, you can't leave it like that. That's just fucking wrong. So I'm possibly going to have to cut up, I don't know, a bit further into the roof skin. I didn't really want to cut up the here. I wanted to try and leave this edge because it's a nice sharp bend, so it's got a bit of strength. It's less likely to buckle when you're welding if you're careful. But yeah, I need to get in here and see what the fuck's going on. See why it's like that. You know what I mean? What are they? I don't really know. But it ain't good. It's no good fucking like that. No good at all. Alrighty, let's dig in here a bit more. So I've cleaned some of this away. I'm not going to just show you, but I can see where the patch has been put in here. From what I can see, it's only that patch. But it is some, I don't know, can you see on there? Yeah, just on this edge of this, I might just point it a little further. So you're down here, there's some rust holes. I think it's actually been welded down here. It's had some patch work done in here. I'm not sure whether this has been a new piece or exactly what's going on here. Looks like it may have been welded through there. Yeah, not so much factory welds. Like there's a few pinholes down here which we'll try and fill, like there's pinholes down here. It may have even been welded all the way down there. I don't know. There's been some repairs done anyway. But yeah, there's some big fucking holes in here, so we'll try and see if we can fill these. Hopefully they haven't made it too thin. We'll try and fill these up, at least anyway. I put my die grind a bit into there just to clean it out, and it feels fairly solid. It's not disappearing like the hole was on the other side that I had in here, which is on the first video, and where there was a bit of a hole in there, and I poked it in there and it just disappeared. And then we end up putting an inch and a half 40mm long patch in this corner. So this actually looks more solid than that one. I don't think there's any more holes down here. I will have a wee bit more of a dig around this front when I get a bit more. But I've cleaned up down here, down the post, and most of this looks like original paint, the yellow that's underneath it. But yeah, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut through here and drop this section off, and then we'll cut this inner piece off and against here where they've patched it in. We'll cut that right out and we'll cut a clean join down in here somewhere. I might actually cut this back a little bit further so I can get in and see what they've done. Yeah, and then we may end up remaking a new drip rail, a bit like what I did on that 65 shed. Righty, so we've dug even deeper. Unfortunately, I fucking ground this away a bit much because I started trying to separate it and I ended up buckling. But that's okay. There's actually a hole in here, so we'll weld those couple bits up. We might just put a wee patch in here first. But what I'm going to do is, because I thought, well, shit, instead of frickin' welding along here, it's easy to fucking put some holes in here. Plug weld this piece on in here. So we'll add a little turn down about, I don't know, half an inch deep, thereabouts, maybe a little bit more than that deep, so it turns down, and then this outer skin will sit over top of that again and be along here. I think that's how it's done on the other side. I've actually had a look on the other side and I think it's been bodged up too underneath, so I might have to redo that one. When I was having a wee look, we'll clean up down there. But so we'll make this with a wee turn down that comes under there. We'll plug weld that on. We'll fix this patch here first. There's actually a couple of pinholes in there, as you can see. So we'll fix that where I've made this thin, and then we'll put this on, weld that in, plug weld that along there, weld it along here, obviously, and then we will work out this piece, how that's made, and we'll work out that bit to get that to match up, and then we'll make the outer skin to work in with that piece. So yeah, at least that'll be way stronger, and if it's not sort of welded along here, at least if it's plug welded through here, it'll be more like factory. Right. Yeah, so I'll sort it out here and we'll get this first bit in. Right, so we got that in there. I haven't welded it down here yet, or down there, which I'm not 100% worried about at the moment. What I want to do now is see if I can get this profile right and work out what I'm doing here exactly to blend into this. So I think this was like a skin within a skin here. I'm not 100% sure, if you know what I mean. Anyway, we'll work it out. I've left plenty of clearance in here to sit this up underneath. We'll just a matter of working it out. I'll see if I can get this rough profile bent. It's my little quick doodle here just for a few rough measurements. But yeah, we're to try and get this shape into that. The little turnover there. I'll try and get that little step in it. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll just start off with a short piece first. We need a piece that's eventual measurement is so that's 4 inches is 100 mil roughly, so 8 inches, so it's about 9 inches, just to sneak over 9 inches long, or about 130, not quite 130 mils long. So we know roughly how long we need the piece. Just a matter of see if we can get this shape in here first. We might even cut. We'll work this out, but and then we'll. This skin here just comes down. There's a little step in it, and then it's just got a little flat piece across the bottom. So we might end up just not 100% sure plug welding it from the bottom. I think that's what I did with that 65 Impala. Just drilled holes through my new piece and then just plug welded it from the bottom, and then obviously seam sealer and whatever grind up and clean up. But yeah, we'll work on there. I think this probably should be blended in here better, but I'm not really worried about it because, you know, obviously when we put the other skin, we'll blend that in here better. We'll weld it into here and then blend whatever into here. It's, you can see on the old piece, is it? No, it's not on that piece, it's on the other piece, the internal, wherever that was. Now, the piece I just replaced, you can see where the overlap piece of skin was originally. I think I showed you that before. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I might as well start making, otherwise, because it could take me a while to get this sorted. Alright, I'm just trying to work out. This is too long. That doesn't matter at the moment. So I'm just trying to work out to get. God, fucking more than one hand. So there we go. Stay. So we're kind of getting there. I just need to work out. I might have to fold this little lip first. Fold it so far anyway, and then cut it off, and then hammer it over, and then the rest in, like, do that little kink and that little kink, and then try and get it to square up, and then come in and break that one, and then flip it back over and break that one, and then do this bit last, which I've bent the wrong way, which I've just realised, but that doesn't matter. We're just doing test pieces. We're just trying to work out to get it to fold, and then we'll have to see if we can fold it, you know, something a bit longer than that. So I'll bend up and mark out another little piece, and we'll go again. Right, so I think I've just got that piece figured out, how to do that. That sometimes is the trick, and then being able to do it in a half decent length, hopefully with no being terribly long. Yeah, it's probably about that long. It shouldn't be too much of a struggle, but you never know. But I wouldn't mind just trying to get that little lip a wee bit smaller too, but we'll work on that. And then obviously, hopefully I might be able to get this a wee bit tighter, but I'm not too stressed about that at the moment. I'll just rather see if I can get these next bends in there, and then sit this against the car and just see whether that sort of fits front and back, and that'll tell me whether I need to change this distance anywhere to get it to suit. But yeah, you know, we will keep playing. But yeah, and then when I make the real piece, I'll video that just so you guys get a bit more of an idea. Just sometimes, you know, some of these little tricky things, you got to kind of go around things a weird way, if you know what I mean. Just you'd sort of not the way you would think. But yeah, and then obviously, you know, at some points you got to stop and hammer that flat, and then I actually put this in the vise, the other vise, but set that in here and then hammered that down because you can't get it anywhere near like that. And I would actually like to get that tighter, but you know, we're just working with what we can get. Once we know we can bend it, we will then, when we do the real one, we will obviously see if we can get it dialed in a wee bit closer. But I think we're on the right page anyway, so we'll carry on. Alright, we're kind of right here. It's not perfect, it needs a wee bit of tweaking obviously, but if you sit it here, it's way too far out, so obviously we need to shorten this distance, so we need to taper it along here. I need to try and see if I can get a better measurement from somewhere in here and shorten this distance here from here to here. I'm not sure. So yeah, but roughly got it. It's just a matter of trying to get these couple of bends here a bit more sharper and a bit more snugger, maybe just a tiny bit smaller when we do the real thing. So we'll have a go at that and then we'll go from there, I think. So I've got this kind of made. So obviously we're going to do some trimming. We're going to trim that piece off there, put that up there, and obviously we'll trim that. I think the edge is a little bit wide, but I'll play with it. We might better just, I don't know, we'll work on it. When we get it on there, I may better just you know, grind it back a little bit, pinch it, put a couple of tacks on it, and then keep yarning, you know, make it a little bit thinner, but like re-railed the edge, if you know what I mean. It's just, it is what it is, you know. I have tried to hammer it closed a little bit too, so to tighten it up a wee bit. I can probably do that a little bit more, but then I've got to be careful I don't bend it like that. But so you will trim that off, and then also I've marked in here where that bit of a bump is, and I'll hammer a bit of a bump in there so we can try and get that into place, and at least there, so we can get it into place. And I won't weld it in tonight or today, but we'll get it fitting, and at least then we can get it all ready to weld together. Probably tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's New Year's Eve, but I don't care. I'll do a couple of hours and just see if I can get this blocked in, if you know what I mean. Even if it's just all tacked on there. And make this piece, and see if we can get it all tacked in, or at least, or maybe fully welded. I just don't want to do too much more welding tonight. It's getting later. I'd rather just leave it alone, just in case we end up with fires or anything freaking stupid. Seen too many people freaking burn their shits down. But yeah, we'll trim this back, we'll cut this piece off, we'll hammer that little mark in there, and then we'll come back to you again. So yeah, we've got this piece made. I've got a little bit of sorting to do to get it to fit, and then we'll make the outer skin, and then we've got these holes down here and here and here to tidy up where it's been patched before. It's obviously had a patch welded in here. It's almost like it's had some, I reckon it's probably original, but it looks like it's had a patch put in here. It actually looks quite some of these patches are actually done quite well, but they just haven't been finished welded very well. You know, they've got some big holes which need to be filled. But anyway, we will get we'll get this piece in from underneath. So it fits like that. We've just got some trimming to do to get it to fit right. I need to cut it off, whatever, cut bits off it and whatever. So we'll do that. Yeah, and then we'll make the outer skin, and we'll get that all welded on. And we'll go from there. Right, so I've done a little bit of trimming off camera. I'm just trying to get everything to line up, to fit, to get the strip rail line up. It's slightly too high. I'm going to have to, like this is slightly too high. I'm going to have to do something with that later on once I get it in there and permanent. So I'm just trying to get all this to line up. I'm going to have to drop this down a little bit so we can get this to line up. And obviously I've had to do a little bit of shaping in here, probably cutting it just to get this to come back up, and then obviously to follow this joint in here. I may cut this back a little bit further, but I'm actually just going to drill a couple of holes in here so I can put a couple of Tech screws in just to pull that up tight to get everything sort of to obviously join together there. And obviously we'll plug it right along here, and then those couple of holes will be plug welded up there, back up in the outer, all this skin. Might probably even weld it along there, and then we'll just dress it up later on. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting all this stuff to line up nicely so it looks right, if you know what I mean. And then once we've got that sorted, then I can spray some weld through on the, give it the whole thing a fully clean up, and then we can actually weld it together. It's kind of critical that this is a, it's got to be pretty good. It's not something you can hide. You know, sometimes you can get away with hiding things, but there's not much hiding. This piece, if it's not right, it's going to look fucking weird. So yeah, but sometimes you can get away with like a patch in here if it doesn't fit 100% perfect. You know, you can put a bit of body filler over it, and it's going to hide the worst of it, if you know what I mean. But if this isn't right, that's the big thing. If this isn't right and it doesn't line up with this properly, it gets weird quick. And I don't know if this is actually meant to be bent up. I think it's meant to be flattened off. I think that's meant to be flat through here. I was just having a look at the other one. That's the other thing too, you know, it can take a while. It can take, you know, you can screw around with this shit for a while, just getting shit to fit right, you know, comparing it to the other side. So yeah, it's meant to be bent down. It's not meant to be bent up like that. It's probably half the reason why the water's trapped in there. But I think I'm actually going to have to go back underneath here and do this one too, because you can feel where it's all been. There's lots of extra shit going on there. So we might have to clean that one off and at least have a look and see how that's been patched up. The thing is, when I had that little piece out, I didn't see anything, so maybe it's just been wet, it might have had a bit of a hole welded up or something like that, and hasn't been ground off properly. Because I don't really want to open that one back up, because when I pulled that piece off, like I said, I didn't see that it had been patched up badly like this one. Mind you, I didn't cut as much out though either, which is probably part of it. I didn't need to, per se, if you know what I mean. But so yeah, we'll spend a few more minutes here. We'll just get all this shit here to line up properly. Try a few little extra bits and pieces, and then we can get it all prepped for welding on. Right, I think I've got this to where I'm happy now for fitting. It's not 100% perfect, but I think what's not perfect can be hidden. Like this joint here, it's just not quite right. I've tried to hammer this back over and then increase this piece so I could grind it down, like to sort of shift this back, but it's kind of like, you know, it's diminishing returns now. And by the time I weld it up and clean it up, and then weld it up and clean it up on the back side, and then just, we scooch a fillet, it's not going to matter much. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to grind it off the bottom, so what I will do is just grind a little bit, weld it up, grind a little bit, weld it up, until we can get this to blend out. So you can't notice that there's a difference in height. It's such a frickin' prick of a place to, you could probably make it 10 times to get it dead perfect, if you know what I mean. It's just like, by the time you made it 10 times, you could have, ground it back an inch, you grind it back just above where it is, and then put a wee bit of weld on there, and by the time you've cleaned it up and whatever, it is what it is. We might only have to blend it out so far, and then it won't be quite so noticeable, if you know what I mean. Or we could even just add a little bit of weld onto here and not cut this back so much and just blend it through, so it's not quite so obvious. It kind of is what it is. So yeah, we just got to try and get a nice happy medium there, so it's not obvious. Like we've got this edge lining up right, we've got one Tech screw up in there just to hold everything. We can weld this in, blend this in, whatever. We may cut back this back a little bit, just nick this back a whisker through here. Maybe just bring it back to actually the middle of that, so we haven't got quite so much to blend on that hard edge, or hard corner. Might just pull it back a little bit, make it a little bit easier to blend. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll bang a heap of plug welds through here now, and we'll probably do a couple up onto this brace. Just, probably, I don't know, 1 or 2, maybe even 3. Just drill a couple of holes through there so we can burn it in so it's attached to this. And then we can make the outer skin. And we'll just make the outer skin to suit. Obviously, we know where this ridge is. We've left a little bit at the front. So as long as we can get that nice and straight, we can bring that down here, and then the rest of it we can blend it and fudge up, if you know what I mean. We'll just bring it down and we'll bend a little bit over, and then I'll cut it back, and we'll just bring it in, and then we put seam sealer down here to blend it in. Nobody will know that it's not 100% dead perfect. Alright, so I got that trim back, plug holes drilled for whatever, to weld and whatever. So I got that all sorted. So now while we're waiting on that bit of paint to dry, we'll get a couple of basic measurements for this outer bit of skin, and we'll put that little bead roll through there, and we'll bend our little edge over. That should be pretty easy to make, and then we'll get that all ready to weld in at the same time. I was going to put holes in here at the drip edge to plug weld it from underneath, but I think what I'll do is on the outside skin I'll bang a series of holes along there like that, and I'll just plug weld it from the top, and then I can just run along there with the grinder and clean it up afterwards. I think that'll be simpler. I could just put one of my thick, I've got a thick version of this that I use to cleaning up edges and bits and pieces. I actually need to get some more of those orange discs that I was getting with the duck. I need to find out where to get them from. If you don't know what the duck is, it's the World War II amphibious truck that I worked on there a few months ago. So yeah, when I weld along here, buzz those bits, and then we can just whip along there. But we'll take a couple of quick measurements here, and we'll get this made and bend that little edge on it. And yeah, so we know exactly where everything's going to line up. So it's just a matter of getting the piece made up and bending a little edge on it and trimming it back and making it work. So while that'll take, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to dry off. So that'll give us a few minutes to get this sorted. So we'll take a couple of quick measurements and we'll bang that piece out. That'll be pretty simple. Righty. So we've got that in here so far. Obviously I haven't cleaned it up fully yet. We'll just roughly ground back, and I've just started to nick this back a little bit to blend this out. We'll just come along here and just grind it back a little bit. A few tacks, grind it back a little bit, and then we can slowly dress it up and get it right. So just in the midst now of just doing the final fitment for this. Obviously can't really fit it beforehand, but we're just getting the last of it dialed in. Make sure things fit right. I actually had this welded together, and then I thought, no, this is actually meant to be welded to this piece, not the underpinnings. So I had to recut that and just hammer the front down a little bit. So we've just got a tiny little bit of trimming to do across here. I think this will be okay. We should be able to fill that gap okay. A little bit of just a wee final trim here, and then probably just once we sort of get it tacked in place and we get that line lined up pretty decent, so we're not having to come along and just do huge amounts of silly filler or anything stupid. As long as we get it reasonably lined up. I wonder if I should just put a slightly, see if I can put a bigger step in that. It's actually quite fine at the back, but a wee bit more at the front. I might just see if I can maybe deepen that a little bit. And, because it is deeper there. And I'll just have we nose down the other side just for a second. I just noticed that. It is a little bit deeper. Yeah, it's just that last little bit, it's just a wee bit deeper. You know, again, that side, you know, we're going to have to put a little bit of mud in there. But, you know, I'm not worried about a little bit of mud. It's when you're just filling it full of mud, fucking to reshape something. Like we scrape here and there. Fucking does, you know, what does it matter? You know, people get all paranoid about body filler. It's there for a fucking reason, you know. As long as you're getting something really, really freaking close, and the job's, you know, not $100,000, 100 or 200, or, you know, like some of those big massive jobs that like Dave can dig it and do, and chip foos and stuff, you know, they're fucking $500,000 or plus, you know, or even over $1 million. Like, you know, you're going to spend every fucking second you can to make something perfect. But, you know, we're going to be a few $1,000s fixing the rust. You know, we're not not spending $100,000 on a ute. You know, so you get it. So it's pretty close, but it doesn't have to be fucking dead perfect. As long as it's close enough. As long as it's close enough, so when you do put in body filler, you know, you're not putting it in fucking this thick. You know, you just put a little scrape just to blend any inconsistencies out, or, you know, just something that's not perfect. You know, again, it's the time and money thing. How long do you spend finessing each panel to make it perfect for the customer's budget? You know what I mean? If the person says, fuck you, this is an open budget, I don't care how much you fucking spend, you know, so, and I've seen it and heard it, like the studio was a little like that, but not really, but because it was a massive project, like, so you kind of just, it is what it costs to get it done, but we're trying to keep it within reasonable sense, if you know what I mean. But like when you're rebuilding everything, it takes time and money. But if you're just doing the metal work on a car, you know, and fixing a bit of rot and smoothing it out, well, you got to keep it within, you got to keep it realistic within the people's budget. You know, obviously if you find extra stuff, you know, there's got to be a little bit to and fro there. And the people have got to be prepared for it. That's the other fucking thing. Like, they just say, oh, you know, I've got fucking, my prime example is that K70 Corolla. Like, he goes, oh, you know, I don't want to spend any more than sort of 10 or 12 grand. But that was fine at the start, you know. If it was just the bits and pieces I had to do without fucking modifying bumpers and flicks and that's out of the bits and pieces and whatever, you know, we probably could have done it for that. But, like, you know, I suppose I went overboard a little bit, but I was trying to make the car fucking decent so he didn't have to come back a few years later to spend that money again. Like, there's a difference between spending that money twice for no fucking reason, or just spending a little bit extra at the time and obviously doing these other bits that you wanted done plus the other stuff that we found. You know, that takes time and money. It's not free. But yeah, like you got to be careful within a person's budget. But you got to allow that, you know, those things are right, if you know what I mean. Hey, I'll try that again. Can't remember, see what happened there. Anyway, I got this done. I got a little bit of final clean up in there. Obviously, we're gonna grind this off. I've done a little bit of the bottom here, just touched it up. A couple of spot welds, you know, or a couple of tacks along this edge. I've only ground back, I don't know, about an inch maybe. So I'll do all the way along here eventually. Yeah, grind this off and whatever. A bit more of a clean up here. I think I've got a hole to fill here somewhere. And I've started filling this hole, got a couple of spots there. I filled this crack here, but this here is all blown away. It's been ground really thin. That's the biggest problem. You just don't know how far somebody's taken the metal either. I mean, they've made it thin. So hopefully I can build this back out. And the same down here. These 2 or 3 holes down here. And again down here. There's a couple holes down here. So if we can get them filled up at least anyway. And then we'll call that the end of this video. And then obviously I'll carry on doing these bits and pieces. I might have to frickin' try and get in here and drill these rivets out so I can get this frickin' plastic piece here and burning the fucking thing, which has pissed me off. I didn't realise I had so many frickin' marks in it, if you know what I mean, because it's frickin' riveted in, and I said, oh fuck, it should be right and I won't worry about it, but yeah, it's getting bloody burn marks in it, which is a pain in the fucking ass. It's not ideal. Anyway, so we'll have to get that out of the road too. That's the biggest problem too, you know, sometimes it's fucking good if people just take everything out they don't want damaged. No, there's not much we can do about the hood line. We have to pull it out to do this, and it's very difficult to get this back in now. Like, you know, it's old. You know, it's 30 something years old, so it just needs to be replaced. There's not much way, not really any way around that. With the amount of extensive work we've had to do, you know, doing this big massive frickin' repair in here. But at least now that's basically done. You know, I've got a little bit of finessing to do. We have to tap it down here a little bit. Looks like it's a little bit high, but obviously we've got to grind this off and just do a few little zaps on here to get it a bit more even, so it's not so thick. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I did mean to film some of it, but I just I sort of got busy on my way welding, and then I was shit. I was just about finished welding. I was like, oh, we'll come back to it when we I thought I'd turn the camera on. I'd poked it up there, hadn't pushed the button. I'd sort of set it up and then sort of got south sorted out, and then I forgot to push the go button to weld this in. But oh, it is what it is. Anyway, you can see the finished result there anyway. So yeah, now we've got a couple of bits and pieces to dress up and whatever, but it's pretty good. It's a little low here. I did actually cut this once and re-lift it. For some reason it's pulled just low in that one wee spot. As I was welding along there, I did recut it and lifted it back up, but it pulled it again. For what reason I don't really know, but it is what it is. It's not a biggie. It's only just a little bit of filler. It's going to be a little bit thick in there in one spot, but yeah, I was hoping to avoid it a little bit, you know what I mean? Get it so it's decent. Like most of the other places I haven't managed to, but it was sort of weird when I welded it and tacked it in the first couple of times. It sort of went low there, and I was like, oh, so I cut it and then I lifted it back up and I put another couple of welds, and it must have just pulled in again with cooling, just in that one spot. Everything else is good. It's just this little frickin' 2.5 inch piece here, because that's where it's joint, so it couldn't move there, so it pulled down in here for some reason. It is what it is. It's not going to be a major issue. It goes back. It's going to have a little bit of filler probably back to back here, just to blend it out, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Better than fucking rust holes and bodged patches and whatever, you know, by the time we've finished cleaning up and smeared some seam sealer down in there and whatever. Nobody will ever know where we're there. So, yeah, and it's a little bit low in here, but again, you know, a little bit of filler. Should be right. Yeah, you can see that ripple there now, where it just pulled in that one spot. But the rest of it's pretty good. So, you know, you can live with that. You know, it's just something you have to work with when you're doing a wee bit of body work. Like, I'm not going to be doing a lot of body work on this. I'm just putting it back into primer. Just the areas where it's fixed, so we'll just blend that out a little bit, blow some primer on there, and be done with it. Yeah, it is what it is. And then he can decide whether he wants to flick a bit of blue on it or whatever, or we'll put some black on it or something like that, just to put it back through all his whatever he wants to do. Or he might decide to carry on paint it. I don't know, you know what I mean? And then we can do that later on. But we'll carry on here and get this stuff sorted out. So again, thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell, whatever, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video in a few days' time.